It's in my blood. Competition, I was born to compete, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing than being in an octagon. Fighting is in my blood.
Big right hand from Guida. Oh! Down goes Lozon. Wow! Clay Guida!
What if I told you there was a UFC fighter who just doesn't get tired? A fighter who never stops moving, never stops attacking, and keeps defying human limits.
The Carpenter Guida!
That is Clay Guida. Imagine a fighter so intense he comes to the octagon this hyped up.
The slaps came from back in the day. Joey Gilbert used to slap my brother in the face before his fights, and then I started fighting, and my brother took it upon himself to start slapping me, and it was just one of those things that never got old, and it gets me ready for my fights.
Known for his wild energy and relentless pace, Guida has shocked fans and fighters alike with his inhuman cardio. While others fade, he just keeps coming, turning every fight into a high-octane war. This is the story of the UFC fighter with the most inhuman cardio. Humble beginning. To really get where Clay Guida comes from, you need to know about Round Lake, Illinois, a tight-knit, blue-collar town where hard work is just a part of life. Guida grew up in a family that knew the value of a hard day's work. His dad was a construction worker who taught Clay and his brothers one important rule: you don't quit until the job's done. Being the youngest of 3 brothers, Clay had to fight for his place in the family. That meant wrestling with his older brothers, getting knocked down more times than he could count, but always bouncing back up. Even as a kid, Clay wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but he was definitely the scrappiest. He wasn't afraid of hard work, and he sure wasn't afraid of a challenge. That's why high school wrestling became Clay's outlet for all that boundless energy. Wrestling wasn't just a sport to him, it was a proving ground. He wasn't the most naturally gifted athlete, but what he lacked in raw talent, he made up for with pure heart and determination. Every match was a chance to test his limits, to push himself harder than he thought possible. It was during those grueling high school practices that Clay discovered a crucial truth. Endurance isn't just about physical strength, it's a mental game. When his opponents were gasping for air, when they were ready to quit, that is when Clay would dig deeper and push harder. He thrived on outlasting his opponent, on being the guy who could keep going when everyone else was ready to tap out. After high school, Clay took his wrestling skills to Harper College. He wasn't a national champ or an All-American, but he left a lasting impression on everyone that he trained with. He wasn't flashy, but he was relentless. He showed up, worked hard, and gave everything he had every single day. After college, with no clear path in sight, Clay went back to his roots, working as a carpenter. The long days on construction sites were tough, but they couldn't extinguish the competitive fire that was burning inside him. That fire was waiting for the right spark, the right opportunity to ignite his next big adventure. Discovering MMA. That spark came from an unexpected place. Clay Guida wasn't the kid who grew up idolizing fighters or dreaming of championship belts. In fact, he barely knew what mixed martial arts even was. But one night, his brother dragged him to a local MMA event, and something just clicked. The raw intensity of the fights, the unfiltered combat, it struck a chord deep inside him. This wasn't about fame or glory. It was about testing yourself in the most primal way possible. It was about heart, grit, and toughness. And Clay knew that he had found his calling. Guida's entry into the world of MMA wasn't exactly glamorous. He didn't have a fancy gym or a big-name coach. What he did have was a fire in his belly and an unbreakable will to succeed. He started fighting on the local Midwest circuit, where the pay was often barely enough to cover his gas. The venues were small, the crowds modest, and the competition was fierce. But for Clay, it wasn't about the money or the accolades. It was about the grind, about stepping into that cage and leaving everything he had inside it. Those early fights were a baptism by fire. Clay faced opponents who were more experienced, more polished, and more skilled. But what set him apart wasn't fancy technique or knockout power. It was his refusal to give up. No matter how many punches he took, No matter how tired he got, Clay kept moving forward. He was like the Energizer Bunny of MMA, a relentless force who just wouldn't stop. Fans started to take notice. There was something magnetic about this scrappy underdog who seemed to defy the limits of human endurance. Clay wasn't just fighting to win, he was fighting to see how far he could push himself. He was fighting to prove that heart and determination could beat raw talent any day of the week. Rise to Strikeforce. After grinding it out on the local circuit, Clay finally caught the attention of Strikeforce, an up-and-coming MMA promotion that was starting to make waves. This was a big step up, a chance to prove himself against tougher competition and show that he belonged with the best. For most fighters, this would be a nerve-wracking leap, but not for Guida. He thrived on challenges. This was the moment that he had been waiting for, a chance to show the world what he was really made of. In Strikeforce, Clay quickly built a reputation as a fighter who could push the pace like no one else. His cardio was becoming the stuff of legend. He might not have had the flashiest moves or the sharpest striking, but he had an unbreakable will and a gas tank that never seemed to run dry. If you wanted to beat Clay Guida, you had to be ready to go through hell. And even then, there was no guarantee that you would come out on top. During his time in Strikeforce, Clay made a name for himself with several impressive performances. His relentless style and never say die attitude caught the attention of bigger promotions. He proved that hard work, grit, and determination could take you far in this sport. His success in Strikeforce didn't go unnoticed. His reputation as a fighter who could push the pace for 3 full rounds and break opponents with his cardio opened the door to the biggest stage in MMA, the UFC. Entering the UFC. Clay Guida's arrival in the UFC in 2006 was a game changer. The UFC was the ultimate proving ground, where the best fighters in the world went head-to-head. For Clay, this was the big leagues. This was where he could truly test himself against the elite. He didn't enter the UFC with a flashy record or a reputation as a knockout artist. Instead, he was known as a grinder, a scrapper who would drag you into deep waters and see if you could survive. From his very first fight, Clay's relentless style caught the attention of fans. His pace, his toughness, and his ability to take punishment while keeping the pressure on made him an instant favorite. In a division full of sharp technicians and heavy hitters, Guida was something else entirely. A relentless force of nature who just kept coming. Clay quickly became known for his ability to push the pace for 3 full rounds without ever slowing down. While his opponents were gasping for air, Guida was still bouncing on his feet, ready for more. It wasn't just his physical stamina that set him apart, it was his mental toughness. Guida thrived in the chaos of a fight, pushing himself beyond the limits of what seemed humanly possible. The cardio secret. Now, we have talked a ton about Clay's cardio, but what was the secret to this legendary gas tank? It wasn't just about good genetics or high energy personality, though it definitely played a part. His actual secret was the years of grueling, innovative training that he had to endure. A major turning point came when Clay started working with Czar Horton, a fire captain and kettlebell training expert known as the Kettlebell King. Horton's approach to training was a game changer for Guida, laying the foundation for his incredible endurance. Horton didn't rely on traditional endurance methods like long-distance running or standard cardio machines. Instead, he introduced Clay to a brutal regimen of kettlebell workouts that combined strength, power, and cardio all into one intense package. These weren't just workouts, they were tests of mental and physical resilience. Kettlebells became the core of Guida's training. Horton designed circuits that pushed every muscle in Clay's body to the edge. Exercises like swings, cleans, and snatches were performed in rapid succession, forcing Clay to generate explosive power while maintaining control and proper breathing. The goal wasn't just to build endurance, it was to condition Guida to stay calm and composed under extreme physical stress. Clay credits his training for transforming his approach to fighting. It wasn't just about building a bigger gas tank, it was about learning how to manage fatigue, control his breathing, and keep pushing forward even when his body was screaming for relief. This mental toughness became a cornerstone of his fighting style, allowing him to outlast opponents and break them down over the course of a fight. Legendary fights. One of the defining moments of Clay Guida's career came in 2009, in a fight that has become the stuff of legend. Guida went head-to-head with Diego Sanchez in one of the most electrifying and grueling battles in UFC history. From the moment the fight started, you knew you were witnessing something special. Sanchez, known for his aggressive, no-holds-barred style, came out swinging like a man possessed. In the opening seconds, Sanchez landed a brutal head kick that would have knocked out most fighters. But not Guida. He shook it off like it was nothing and kept coming forward, his relentless spirit on full display. The fight was pure chaos, with neither man backing down. Guida took punishing blows but kept pressing the pace, forcing Sanchez to fight at a frantic, breakneck speed. By the second round, both fighters were covered in blood, their faces battered and bruised, but neither was willing to quit. The final round was pure grit and determination. The crowd was on its feet, roaring as the two warriors traded blows until the final bell. When the fight was over, it didn't matter who the judges picked as the winner. Both men had left everything they had in the octagon, earning each other's respect and the respect of fans around the world. The fight was awarded Fight of the Year and was later inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, securing its place in MMA history. The Nate Diaz Showdown. Another iconic fight in Clay Guida's career was his clash with Nate Diaz at UFC 94 in 2009. Diaz, a rising star known for his slick submissions and unorthodox striking, was a tough opponent with legendary cardio. The fight was billed as a showdown between two endurance monsters, a battle of who could outlast the other. From the opening bell, Clay executed a smart game plan, using his relentless wrestling to neutralize Diaz's striking and submissions. He kept constant pressure on Diaz, forcing him into a grueling grappling war. Guida's ability to maintain a high pace while controlling the fight on the ground earned him a split decision victory. In a battle of cardio, Guida managed to outsmart Diaz to run away with the victory. A war with Rafael dos Anjos. In 2010, Clay faced another formidable opponent, Rafael dos Anjos, who would later become the UFC lightweight champion. Dos Anjos was known for his well-rounded skills, combining dangerous striking with high-level jiu-jitsu. It was a tough test, but Clay was ready. The fight was classic Guida. He put relentless pressure on Dos Anjos, wearing him down with constant movement and tireless energy. In the third round, Guida's persistence paid off when he locked in a guillotine choke, earning a submission victory. It was a stunning finish, especially against an opponent as skilled as Dos Anjos, and it cemented Guida's reputation as a fighter who could find a way to win, no matter who was standing across from him. This win also aged incredibly well when you look at how Dos Anjos managed to become a UFC champion after this fight. Not only that, he also managed to earn impressive wins over the likes of Anthony Pettis and Takanori Gomi after this fight. His most impressive victory, and one that he regards as his greatest achievement, is his win against the UFC legend and multi-time champion BJ Penn. Challenges, losses, and constant reinvention. Still, Guida's journey through the UFC has been filled with highs and lows. He has faced some of the biggest names in the sport and taken on challenges that would have broken lesser fighters. But through it all, Guida has remained resilient, always learning, always adapting. What has kept him going is his ability to reinvent himself. As the sport evolved, so did Clay. He refined his skills, adjusted his strategies, and found ways to stay competitive, even as younger, faster fighters entered the scene. His longevity in such a brutal sport is a testament to his work ethic, his heart, and his unbreakable spirit. Ageless warrior. Clay Guida is still going strong today. His career, now spanning more than 2 decades, is a rare feat in the unforgiving world of MMA. Even in his 40s, Guida continues to compete at the highest level, defying expectations and proving that age is just a number. His relentless energy, his indomitable will, and his legendary cardio have made him a fan favorite and respected figure in the MMA community. As long as that fire to compete burns within him, Guida will keep stepping into the octagon, ready to take on all challengers. The legacy of Clay Guida. Clay Guida's legacy isn't just about the fights he's won or the opponents that he's faced. It's about how he's fought, with heart, with determination, and with a spirit that refuses to quit. Even though he has had great wins throughout his career, Clay has shown that greatness isn't just about skill or talent. It is about the will to keep going, to push through adversity, and to never, ever give up. Guida's story is proof that with hard work, perseverance, and an unbreakable spirit, anything is possible. His legacy will be remembered long after he hangs up his gloves, as a warrior who broke his opponent's will by never backing down and always coming forward.